Well, happy Easter, sisters and brothers. Yesterday morning, I was driving over to Holy Redeemer to do the live stream Mass with Bishop Nicasio. And I have to say, it was really strange. There was not a soul on the street. Everybody was inside due to the new restrictions. And not even the dogs. Maybe one dog on the street. Even the dogs were sheltering in place. And I have to say, I felt a little bit of mixed emotions. On the one hand, it's Easter Sunday. It's the most joyful, hope-filled day of the year for us Christians. And on the other hand, I was really feeling the mood of the city, which is one of fear, which is one of questioning. What is going to happen next? How long are we going to be in this state? Mixed emotions on this Easter Sunday. Maybe you're feeling the same thing. That's why I was pleasantly surprised when I looked at the gospel this morning to find that Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, when they go to the tomb, according to St. Matthew, they felt fearful and yet overjoyed. Fear and joy at the same time. Those emotions can go together. So in today's reflection, I want to look a little bit at Mary Magdalene, a really important figure that we can sometimes overlook. I think she has a lot of advice for us, particularly this Easter, in these conditions of quarantine. So let's jump into the gospel of the day. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew. Glory to you, O Lord. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went away quickly from the tomb, fearful yet overjoyed, and ran to announce the news to his disciples. And behold, Jesus met them on their way and greeted them. They approached, embraced his feet, and did him homage. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go tell my brothers to go to Galilee, and there they will see me." While they were going, some of the guard went into the city and told the chief priests all that had happened. The chief priests assembled with the elders and took counsel. Then they gave a large sum of money to the soldiers, telling them, "You are to say, his disciples came by night and stole him while we were asleep. And if this gets to the ears of the governor, we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble." The soldiers took the money and did as they were instructed. And this story has circulated among the Jews to the present day. The Gospel of the Lord. So a few years ago, I was in the Holy Land, and I was working on a project. This was back when I worked for National Geographic, and I was working on a documentary. And one day, this archaeologist that I was working with, named Yossi Garfinkel, he was a very well-respected, world-renowned archaeologist. He said to me, "Let's go up to Galilee. You need to see Galilee because you're a Christian." So he drove me up there, and we're standing now in Galilee in Capernaum, Peter's hometown, looking out at the Sea of Galilee, right where Jesus worked and ministered. And he turns to me and he says, "Jeremy, there is one thing about Christianity that makes it extremely unique vis-a-vis the other religions of the ancient Greco-Roman world." I looked at him, I said, "What?" "Women," he said. He said, "In no other religion of that time period did women play such an important role. Women were very much second, third, 10th class citizens at that time. And yet in Christianity, women received the news, the all-important, earth-shattering, groundbreaking news of Jesus' resurrection, the most important news of all, first. They find out before the men." And I've been thinking about that ever since. And you know what? It's true. Mary Magdalene is not one of the 12 apostles. She's not part of the 12, but in many ways, she's very much an apostle. And maybe the church should have called her one. She is there at every step of the way, walking with Jesus throughout his ministry. And then when it matters most, Jesus' passion and death, she is there in ways that the men are not. She is there by Jesus' side when he is on the cross. She waits and prays at his tomb after he dies. And then on that first Easter morning, she's the first person to know that Jesus has been resurrected and to meet him. And what are the men doing this whole time? They're hiding out in fear, They're just like scaredy cats, nowhere to be found, sheltering in place. There's a tendency, I think, throughout the ages to maybe put women in a lower place. But in the kingdom of God, as Jesus reminds us again and again, we are all equal. Human beings, we like to stack things up. I'm better than him, and I'm better than him, and here are the men at the top of the pecking order. But in the kingdom of God, everyone is horizontal. We are one family. And Jesus reminds us that those people that we sometimes put at the bottom end of the spectrum, women, the poor, the outcasts, the socially marginalized, the sinners. They are at least as important in the kingdom of God as the rest of us. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. And in appearing to Mary Magdalene first, Jesus reminds us of that radical equality of all of us in the kingdom of God. The second point that I think Mary Magdalene can teach us is her faithfulness. As I already said, she was there when the others scattered, when the others got afraid and ran away. She was there. Was she afraid? Of course she was. It says it in today's gospel. She was fearful and yet joyful. She was feeling the same emotions that they were, but she stuck it out. She didn't let the panic and the fear get the better of her. And sisters and brothers, there's a lesson there very much for us at this time, that we need to keep walking and need to keep trusting. We ask God to give us the heart and the faithfulness of Mary Magdalene. She trusted Jesus. She loved Jesus. She knew that the promises of God would be true. Even when things looked really dark and bleak, she showed up at the tomb to wait and see what would happen next. And I firmly believe that even in this dark period of our world and our lives, God is doing something new. And like Mary Magdalene, we need to camp out at the tomb and wait and see what's going to happen. Let go of some of that fear. Open our hearts to love, to see what new things God is going to do.